So we're going to take a quick break from the Shimano SLX videos, and we're going to get to a long-awaited showdown between the current pure MGL king, in my opinion. That is the Metanium MGL, the JDM version, which has the shallower spool, versus the new, for 2019, Shimano Antares A, which incorporates the latest MGL spool available, the MGL 3. Now this video is going to focus mainly on pure casting performance. We're not going to get into price or any specifications, but I will touch on that towards the end. But before we get into it, I want to share something with you guys. Okay, so this is Zach. Now, Zach apparently is a subscriber, and more importantly, Zach was one of the winners of the contest where I gave a MEGABASS Vision 110 jerkbait away. Now Zach wanted to let me know that he has been absolutely wearing the fish out with this jerkbait. He's caught a bunch of pig smallmouth, a bunch of big walleye, pike, and he said he's even caught a muskie. And Zach wanted to let me know that, you know, he used to fish only Rapala jerkbaits, and he thought he'd never ever spend $25 on a jerkbait until he got his contest prize. And Zach found out why the MEGABASS Vision 110 is the most copied jerkbait in the world, because as you can see, it absolutely slays fish. And he's caught so many damn fish on this thing that you can see all the paint is wore off. But yeah, I just want to share that with you guys. Now, it turns out that Zach is only going to be buying MEGABASS Vision 110s from now on. So it's turning out to be a pretty expensive contest win for him, because I know you can get, what, 3 Rapalas for the cost of one Vision 110. But I just want to share that with you guys. And if you've won something from one of my contests, whether it be a lure or a reel or whatever, then feel free to share your success story with me, and I'll share it with the channel as well. But I just want to share that with you guys. Okay, so back to the video and the battles. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go over the brief advantages each reel will have over the other. Now, most of the advantages go to the Antares. And the Antares has the newer MGL 3 spool. It's also lighter by almost 1 gram, and it's also thinner as well. And the Antares also has the advantage of having a much bigger line guide. Now it's got a cone egg-shaped line guide there. So not only is the spool thinner, the line guide is bigger, so the friction angles will be less drastic on the Antares. But in the defense of Metanium, the advantage this reel has is that it also has a cone-shaped line guide. Though not as big as the Antares, it is stuck out probably as far as you can poke it out without extending it past the top of the frame. So the distance from the line guide to the middle of the spool on the Metanium is, I would say, noticeably farther than the Antares, probably by almost ½ an inch. As you can see, the Antares had plenty of space that they could have stuck it out further, so I'm not sure why they didn't. But there you go. Now what we're going to do first is we're going to see if the new Antares can dethrone the Metanium as being the 1/4 ounce casting plug king. And then I'm going to take him out on the water and throw a reel lure with hooks and everything, and we're going to see which one casts the farthest there, as well as, you know, differences in casting feel and characteristics, etc. Okay guys, here we go. Okay, so we had a really close battle, just as I suspected. But to be honest, I didn't know who would win. But in the end, if you did the math, you know that we have a new 1/4 ounce casting plug king. And that is the 2019 Shimano Antares. Now this thing averaged 176.96 feet, while the former king, the Metanium, gave us its best ever performance, giving us an average of 174.91 feet. So you're looking at a 2-foot difference between the two. So basically, I want to call it even though technically the Antares won. So we got a new king in town, but what about real lures on the water? So for the on the water battle, the lure I chose was the Lucky Craft Gunfish 95. It's a lure that's not too heavy at about 3/8 of an ounce, but it still casts really good. So what happened was that I first did the cast on the Antares, and then I did the Metanium, and from my observations, it looked like the Metanium was getting the longer casts more consistently. And when I got home and reviewed the footage, my suspicions were confirmed. Now, in the defense of the Antares, a lot of those casts that it was doing looked shorter than they were because of the angle of where the lure landed. But that comes down to the consistency, and I've narrowed it down to a couple of reasons why the Metanium is more consistent. And I'll go over that with you guys in just a moment. So as I said in the beginning of the video, we're going to focus mainly on the casting performance of these reels. And it turns out when it comes to casting actual lures, both of these reels are so close to each other that you really couldn't tell them apart when it comes to pure distance. So that being said, which one of these reels would I pick if I was given the choice of just one? And let's talk about it. Now, with this Antares, what you're going to get is you're going to get a smoother reel. The retrieve is smoother, more rigid. It feels just like a Shimano CONQUEST. And that's not surprising considering this thing has the first level micro module gears, which have, even smaller teeth than the micro gears on the Metanium. And the entire reel is made of metal. Now both of these reels have really fast spools, but on the Antares the casting was a little bit smoother, and that's because the all metal body kind of dampened the vibration of the spool a little bit better than the Metanium. Now don't get me wrong, both of these reels are extremely smooth casters, but the Antares is a little bit smoother. So that being said, money no object. If I was to pick just one reel, it's definitely gonna be this Metanium. Now let me explain why. Now remember how I was talking about consistency? Now the Metanium to me casts more consistent based on two things. Now, the first thing is going to be the weight. And the Metanium, while it is a bigger reel physically than the Antares, as you can see, since it's made of magnesium, it's almost 2 ounces lighter. And that allows me to control the cast better and therefore be more accurate. So basically when I was on the pond there, I was aiming for one specific tree on the other side of the pond, and I was consistently hitting the mark more with the Metanium. And another thing is the casting ergonomics, and let me explain. Now, the way that I cast is I put very minimal thumb on the spool itself, so most of my thumb rests on the thumb bar. And as you can see, the Metanium has a much more spacious thumb bar than the Antares. And I wish Shimano didn't go to this design. I wish they would have kept this design or something similar to this with the Antares. So I like big thumb bars where my thumb can rest comfortably when I'm casting. Now somehow, at least in my opinion, the Metanium actually palms better for me than the Antares. And once again, that's surprising given the size difference between the two, as you can see. But Shimano has made this Metanium actually lower. It sits lower on the reel seat, it looks like, by maybe a millimeter or two than the Antares. So in my opinion, this thing actually is more comfortable to palm despite being physically bigger. So that being said, since they updated the Antares, I wouldn't be surprised if next year in 2020, if Shimano comes out with an all-new Shimano Metanium, and that makes me very excited. Yeah, so that means it's gonna probably get, the new thinner MGL spool, which didn't really turn out to be a benefit, at least for the Antares. But hopefully they'll incorporate some newer technologies as well. But as it stands, the Metanium MGL is still my pick. Okay guys, thanks a lot.